Well, today we also heard stories about the heroes in the accident. The survivors from the crash are amazed that more people weren't killed, and we can thank several rescuers for that. Dan Howell has their story.
EMS officials say they counted 36 federal, state, and local agencies responding to Tuesday's disaster. The first man on the scene was Bradley County Patrolman Bill Dyer. His superiors credit him with saving many lives at the risk of his own.
When I first arrived on the scene, I was at the top of the bridge up on the interstate. I couldn't see anything. However, I could hear them crashing below me and hear the people screaming for help.
In the fog, Dyer ran into the middle of the southbound lane trying to get people off the road.
People couldn't see me until they were 15, 20 feet in front of me. Thought once or twice I might get run over, but I knew I had to stop the traffic.
But not everyone would listen.
He pulled over into the emergency lane, but after he got over, he just looked at me like he didn't understand what was going on. He got back into the lane of travel and proceeded on, and I heard him crash below me.
Some were more fortunate. Margaret Dawson and husband George were on their way to Florida. They stopped in time, but were hit from behind by an 18-wheeler. Margaret was slightly injured, treated, and released. The Red Cross gave them a room in a Cleveland motel.
They talk about Southern hospitality. I know what it is now. The emergency crews were fantastic.
It was a joint effort from everyone. Some of the off-duty personnel were getting IVs started and oxygen.
It was just a tremendous team effort. It was almost like it had been practiced. I've never seen anything quite like that.
But paramedics say it's a scene that will haunt them for a while.
I had a hard time going to sleep. You know, I just kept seeing it and thinking about it.
So officials here say crisis counseling will be made available to these men within the next 24 hours to help them deal with the emotional stress of the I-75 tragedy. With the mobile newsroom in Bradley County, Dan Howell, News Center 12.
Now, officials at Bradley Memorial say the response from doctors was tremendous. Most reported for duty without being called. They say there were only 2 patients for every doctor in the emergency room.
Well, the site of the accident is just about cleaned up by now. Workers are repaving the highway to open the interstate back up to traffic. But the toughest job is at a temporary morgue in Athens. That's where the coroner there is trying to determine just how many people died and who they are. Kendra Farn has that story.
The day after, smoldering wreckage remains sit along I-75, a grim reminder to all who pass by of the tragedy that's occurred. For Randy McKean, the tragedy hasn't ended. There are funeral arrangements, and at home, the covered remains of his wife Judy's truck. For now, that's all he and his children have to hold on to. There are a few others having to make funeral arrangements. Out of the 7 bodies that have been identified, only 2 others have been confirmed by family members. Patsy Robbins of Athens, Tennessee, and Melinda Jones of Chattanooga.
I-75 is such a major thoroughfare. People from all over the country are traveling north and south on it every day. It's because of that, officials say, with charred bodies and charred wreckage, unless family members call, it may be next to impossible to identify some of the victims.
They're having difficulty. That's the reason that the medical examiners have called in some help from Washington to help them with fingerprinting and whatever identifications they can get from it.
Here at the temporary morgue, medical examiner Bill Foy says they're being flooded with calls from all over the country. There are more reported missing persons than there are vehicles. Investigators say there's no way to tell how long the whole process will take. They can confirm 12 were killed, but there are numerous body parts and tissue still unaccounted for. So for now, they're not sure how many lives were actually taken in this disaster. In McMinn County, Kendra Farn, News Center 12.
Now, if you have information or need to get some information about missing relatives who just might have been involved in the accident, we have a phone number for you. You can call the Identification Center in Calhoun, Tennessee at this number, area code 615-745-8991.
This was a most unusual fog. It was very intense and very difficult to see through. I've been through a lot of fog and I've seen various degrees, but based upon what our investigators reporting back, this was among the worst that they've ever seen.
Robert Bartley gave us the first hints of what happened in the fog yesterday. The preliminary report says the most deadly collisions happened in the southbound lane. Investigators believe it started when one truck rear-ended another as they entered a fog bank. 11 people died in the resulting crashes. 2 people were killed in the northbound lanes. But the NTSB confirms our early report on News Center 12 that the northbound warning lights were not on at the time of the accident. Investigators say 83 vehicles were involved overall, 2/3 of them in the southbound lanes. In addition to the 13 dead, 50 people were injured.